first year of marriage is supposed to be the honeymoon period, so there really shouldn't be any conflicts, arguments, or problems during this time, right? Well, I've been married for nearly 4 years, and I can confidently say, after talking to many other couples, that this is not always the case. The first year usually proves to be the most challenging for many people. Hi everybody, this is TheNavdeepKaur and welcome to my channel. Today's video is for those of you who are getting married in the near future, newlyweds, people who are looking for someone they can relate to, or those of us who simply love watching these kinds of videos. So let's talk about the struggles of the first year of marriage for my husband and I, and the lessons we learned. If you like this video, then please consider subscribing by clicking the red button below and the bell icon right next to it so you'll be the first to know when I upload a new video. The first year of marriage can be the hardest because there are so many changes you're adjusting to as a couple. I know that some people do live together before marriage, but that's not very common in my culture, so that first year is a big change for everybody involved. And I feel that most of us go into marriage knowing about other people's struggles, but we still think, my marriage will be different. But unfortunately, that's the kind of delusional thinking that really made it harder for me to make the adjustments to my new life. Let me just start off by sharing some of the major changes my husband and I went through during our first year. If you've watched my ethnicity tag video, then you probably already know that even though I was born in India, I was raised mainly here in California, while my husband came here from India right before our wedding. How he got here is probably a story for another video, but we did go the fiancé visa route, which is a very lengthy, time-consuming, and stressful process in itself. If you want me to do a video talking about our experiences and advice regarding the fiancé visa process, then please let me know in the comments below. Anyways, back to the story. Before the wedding, my husband had less than a month to get himself acclimated to this new country, and most of that time he spent in wedding preparations. If you know, you know that getting everything ready for the big day and then the big day itself is a very stressful phase. And then right after the big day, we were plunged into our new life together. My in-laws decided to stay here in California for some time after the wedding. So the first month of our marriage, we basically spent living with his parents and his brother's family in an Airbnb. And it was just really stressful trying to get things to move smoothly when everything was completely temporary for all 7 of us. If you do end up moving in with your in-laws, then you can definitely expect to be thrown off by the little quirks of this new family. Their taste in food may be completely different from yours. The way they think about and spend money might just take you for a crazy ride. Their cleaning routines and habits may be completely new to you. And these are just some of the basic things that will take a lot of getting used to. For example, I come from a family where we talk a lot. There's never a quiet moment. And when there's a major family decision to be made, we just discuss things over and over again, sometimes to the point of annoyance. But that's just how we are. We joke a lot and we tease each other all the time, but it seemed to be the complete opposite with my husband's family, and that really made me feel very out of place. During our first few months, our biggest arguments were about food, believe it or not. My husband and I have completely different eating habits, and you don't really notice that until you are living with someone. He likes to eat 3 times a day, of which 2 are usually bigger, more filling meals, while I like to eat smaller meals and just snack all day long. I can't tell you how many times we argued over me trying to share my snacks with him or him trying to force me to eat bigger meals. And he also loves trying new foods, while I'm a very picky eater and like to stay in my comfort zone. So guys, every meal, the struggle was real. And here's a very painful truth, guys. Starting from the first day of marriage, my husband and I both began trying to make ourselves into the ideal couple. He was always trying to be the perfect husband by forcing me to eat so nobody would blame him if I died of starvation. And then I was always trying to be the perfect wife, perfect daughter-in-law, perfect sister-in-law, and perfect aunt, all at the same time, without really giving myself time to just be me. Hindsight is 20/20. I'm pretty sure that even with all of my flaws, it would have been best for me to start off this new chapter of life being true to myself, rather than trying to be the ideal woman that India and every other culture in this world has revered for centuries. Once my husband's family went back to India, we moved in with my parents. And this time it was my husband who was in a completely new family and another new place. We had to figure everything out all over again. He wasn't used to eating the amount of salt that my mom and I usually use in our cooking, and he also had to learn how to live with 4 people, including me, with very loud and strong personalities. At times, we both felt isolated from each other as well as each other's families. And even though I'd grown up in my parents' house, me being a married woman had seemed to change things for everybody. And then there was this. We had decided to move in with my parents. And that's a huge break from Punjabi traditions because it's still considered shameful for a man to move in with his wife's family. And this did create a bit of emotional tension and social pressure for my husband. As if life wasn't already complicated enough, as soon as my husband got his work permit, he had to begin his job search. And this was a very stressful few months for us because my job was still considered temporary and he had to resume his engineering career from where he had left off in India. It took a few months, but when my husband did get a job, we had to figure out our daily routines all over again. So basically, the first 6 months of our marriage were filled with one change after another, and we didn't really get a break. So we argued a lot as we got used to each other's personalities, and I'd never lived with a guy before, except my dad, but that's completely different. So it took a lot of me getting used to my husband's habits. I'm a very plan-obsessed person. I've gotten through half my life by mapping things out on an Excel spreadsheet. So once I felt that some sort of normalcy had set in for us, I began to bug my husband to sit down so we could plan all of our life's major milestones together. But that was so a bad idea because I wasn't trying to understand that he still needed time to adjust. And he couldn't understand my need to make this plan and why I would always just, sit down with him and open a blank notebook in front of us. I think I'm making it sound like we had a horrible first year, but that is not true at all. We have some great memories from that year, but at the same time, I'm not going to sugarcoat our struggles with stories about how much we care for each other and all that lovey-dovey stuff. That's what those movies are for. Nothing can change the fact that we are completely committed to each other and care for each other more than anything in the world. But really sharing your life so intimately with someone takes a lot of time and effort, which we have put into our marriage over the past several years. So that's our story. And maybe you noticed that I didn't once mention us going on a honeymoon or spending some quality time together during this period. And that's because we didn't give ourselves that time. I had 2 weeks off after the wedding and we did absolutely nothing during those 2 weeks. We didn't go anywhere or do anything to help bring us closer. And we didn't do anything in the next 11 to 12 months either. That was our biggest mistake. If you learned anything from this video, then I hope you understand how important it is to give each other time without others always being part of the picture. The wedding preparations will leave you completely exhausted. So get away, even if it's for just a few days, and just spend that time relaxing and just getting used to each other. My second piece of advice is to just be you. Don't try to fit yourself into the perfect husband or perfect wife mold. The sooner you start being your true self with everybody around you, the easier this whole transition will be. I mean, you can wear that mask of perfection if you want to, but you have to realize that you will be setting yourself up for failure when it comes to your new relationships, while also putting your own self through mental and emotional torture. Thirdly, be honest and communicate with your spouse. You can't solve your problems by yelling at each other or not talking to each other. So just sit down and listen to their concerns and also try to understand their emotions. There are some things that you will never be on the same page for, but knowing exactly where your husband or wife stands will help you make decisions that are acceptable to the both of you. My fourth point is that you should always remember, you are a team. Don't try to fit your husband or wife into a structure. Just let them be themselves and love them for that. If you try to change your spouse or try to force them to do things that they don't feel comfortable with, your marriage will become a permanent battlefield where bitterness is going to replace the love that brought you together or is holding you together. And the most important piece of advice I can offer is this. From the moment you become husband and wife, you should recognize and accept that your spouse is your first priority over all your other relationships. They should always come first, before your parents, before your siblings, before your children, before your relatives, and before all your friends. And this might contradict what many cultures teach their children, but honestly, this is one of the biggest reasons that people drift apart. Not only should you accept that your spouse comes first, but you should also let them know and make them feel that this is truly the case. If a husband and wife know that they're both each other's number one priority, then things will begin falling into place just a little bit quicker. I really hope you learned something from our experience with the first year of marriage. You can let me know if you like this video by giving me a thumbs up, and I also want you to let me know what other videos you'd like to see on this channel. I'm still a newbie on YouTube, so please help spread the word about my channel by sharing this video with at least one person who might find it helpful or relatable. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments below what advice you would give to a couple in their first year of marriage. Thanks for watching. Until next time.